It is our job. Everybody listening right now, our job to stop just watching, to stop waiting for somebody else to take action, and most importantly, to stop being silent until action is taken by somebody else. Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe, and we're going to talk racism, guys. I don't really see a way out of it. I probably, like a lot of other white privileged people, try to stay out of the conversation, partially because I was scared. I was scared of saying the wrong thing, partially because I felt like maybe it wasn't my place to say anything, partially because, honestly, I just fucking wanted people to just change and for society to fucking adjust and for everything to get better without me doing anything about it. And guess what? I don't think that's going to happen. So it's time. It's time. Now, I'm not comfortable talking about the racial experience in this context because I'm a white guy. Now, yes, I'm Jewish. Yes, I'm a foreigner. I was born in Israel and I moved to the States, and I was the foreign kid in school for the entirety of high school until I went to college, and then my accent and everything else kind of balanced out. And from that point, nobody knows. So I had some of the experiences, right? Like when people found out in Chicago that I was born in Israel, they would ask me if I rode a camel, and yes, they called me a sand nigger and all the other things. And I've been called that word maybe like 8 to 10 times in my life, including in jail and actually pretty recently by some fucking idiot on Facebook. So I've had that experience, but when I walk down the street, the vast majority of people think I'm just a European white kid, and so they don't say shit. And I get the benefit from that. So that's been there forever. So we're going to get the right people to talk about this topic in particular for our Wednesday episode where Sophie and I will talk. And hopefully I'll get a few people for this as well. We're going to make this a focus for a while. But for today, I wanted to talk about it in the context of mental health and recovery, which is what we cover on Fridays. And the main reason, I was talking to my group. I run groups on Tuesdays and Fridays within Ignited. And I was talking to my group today. And, this is how we get generational trauma. With my people and my concept of addiction, if you've been listening to me for any period of time, you know that I don't think of addiction as some weird disease you had biologically and magically showed up when you were older. I think it's an amalgamation of, yes, partially your biology, but also the psychology and environmental influences you've had and your spiritual connection or lack thereof in life. And guess what, people? When you live in an environment that repeatedly traumatizes you, especially because of characteristics that you cannot control and have nothing to do with, like the color of your skin, where you were born, your name, etc., it's called trauma. And when it happens over and over to your people in general, it's generational trauma. And it's generational trauma because epigenetics and biological changes literally in your genes and your gene expression change the way your body functions. This is part of the reason why minorities have health issues that other groups don't have, is because of the immense stress that has been placed on them through these behaviors. And, I'm not going to talk as nicely about this stuff as I have about some other issues in the past, because this shit is insane. It's insane, right? How many times and through how many experiences have we watched people essentially be hunted down publicly, and then the people who killed them walk away? Yeah, maybe through some minimal hardship, like they lost their job, or they were in the press for a while and they really didn't like the way that played out for their families. It was hard. But you know what? When you're the kind of person who can put your knee on somebody else's neck and look around like it's not that big a deal, I look at you as that old, like, Neanderthal mentality bullshit person of, hey, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm white, so I'm good. I've got a gun and I've got 3 other friends who have guns, and we work somewhere where there's hundreds more of us. If you fuck with me, we will kill you. That's sort of the mentality I imagine somebody has to have to be able to do something like that. It's as if we literally live back in the days where if you had a bigger club and more posse, then you could just fucking do whatever you want to do. And then we wonder why people grow up struggling. We wonder why it's hard for them to focus in school so that they can do well and grow up and grab an education. You know, the whole pick yourself up by your fucking bootstrap shit doesn't work if you're afraid for your life every time you walk out of your house. It just doesn't. And I mentioned already, you're born in Israel, etc. My family, not my mom, but her mom and that family grew up through the Holocaust. They had to run away. My mom's mother lost more than half of her family in Poland when the Third Reich came in there. And so I know what kind of impact that leaves on generations. I grew up in a family where the concept of the Holocaust and the impact and the notion that shit like that might just come back next year, even though you never expected it because we didn't think it was coming when it did, is always present. It's omnipresent. It's always in the fucking background. You never get to let it go. You never get to just say, oh, well, let's just pretend nobody fucking massacred us. You don't, but here's the difference. You know, you see the never forget hashtags and you see all this stuff. Every Holocaust Day, it's been 60 years, right? 70 years since this happened. Every year we commemorate it. Why? Because the impact is so massive on our peoples, even though there hasn't per se been a Holocaust since. And yes, I'm sure I will get millions of political comments around this, but it's fine. I think it speaks to the point of what I'm making here. We never forget because you can't ever forget, right? And yet it's happening in front of us on video, publicly, over and over. And because it's not my dad, it's not my brother, it's not my close friend, we do forget, like within days we forget, you know? And so Sophie and I actually recently moved into a predominantly black neighborhood, and we're gonna, I don't know, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really know what we're gonna end up having to do because of this, but what I know is for sure this. I grew up indoctrinated to the idea that treating people like this is never okay. And so it's now my job, it's my duty to change the way I move about my life and the things that I do on my everyday existence until this is no longer okay in our society. The people I deal with are people who develop drug addiction issues and alcohol problems and mental health struggles. But you know what? They develop those issues because they've been traumatized, they've been affected, they've been impacted, either directly or indirectly, you know, biologically or psychologically, environmentally, or through toxins, or a myriad of things that have happened in their life that have led them to having these impacts. And now they use drugs, alcohol, porn, food, whatever it is, to cope with the consequences of those things. And coping is difficult. And that's the work that we do. The work that we do is on the coping. And so that's fine. I'm going to keep doing that work to help people cope. But if we understand that there are these forces in our environment, these malignant, destructive forces, they think they can do whatever the hell they want because there will be no repercussions for them. It is our job to stop those forces. I left a post on my feed and somebody says, yeah, you know, I just don't understand the rioting. Well, that's because you've never been put in a place like that. That's literally as if, you know, so there were huge pogroms in, which are like riots and moments of destruction in Poland during the time of the Holocaust. And then when the Jews were put in ghettos, they rose up and were violent. And at the time, that was used as evidence that they are not adequately controllable. But what do you do when all your rights have been taken away? What do you do when you can go to a store, be suspected of something, right? Suspected of something in a country that supposedly you're innocent until proven guilty. And then because of your suspicion, have 4 people roll up on you armed. So if you resist, they'll shoot you and you know they'll get away with it. So you don't resist. They put you in a fucking ridiculous on the ground, face down, essential chokehold and slowly murder you over a period of 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, what do you do when that happens to your people on a regular basis? I don't know what you do. You talk about it for a while. Maybe you make a speech about having a dream and then get shot on a balcony. Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you make TV shows and documentaries about it so everybody hears and knows and understands what it is, or have an Instagram account that really pushes that racial agenda on an ongoing basis and gets shat on because everybody tells you that you're not neutral. But this person was saying, I don't understand the riots. And I said, what do you want them to do? She said, well, do you think these riots are coming out of a place of love and understanding? I said, fuck no, it's not coming out of a place of love and understanding. It's coming out of a place of desperation and hate. And I get it. But I want to be clear. I'm pretty fucking sure that if there was a swath of officers, a group of rogue officers that decided that they were going to systematically target Jewish people and get caught on video, killing them slowly, publicly, I'm pretty fucking sure the outrage would be bigger than this. I don't know. I've got a feeling. Not sure what it is. And I was saying this in the story that I recorded today on Instagram, and so I want to make sure that I repeat it here. It's our job, people. Our job. Our job to change the circumstances because we've taken away the power from the people that we're taken advantage of. So they don't have the ability to do it. And if we're somehow fucking confused enough to think that it's their job to spend another 50, 60, 70 years to gradually rise enough in power to have more control, then we're fucked. We are absolutely then the problem. This is not a competition of who can kill who more blatantly and more publicly and more destructively and more brazenly. That's not the contest we're having here. The endpoint we're trying to get to, unless it's not clear, is to have less violence. The endpoint we're trying to get to is have more control. And we do that by making sure that people don't have to resort to screaming out loud in the streets and lighting things on fire and getting our attention because their brothers and sisters are being murdered in the streets. Now, there are places where I don't have a lot of power to do anything over that. And you know, that's probably for me to wake up to one day and realize that I actually still need to do something there about it. But there are places like here in the US where I do get to say things because our president calling people who riot against murder in the streets thugs, you know, doesn't really leave me inspired. People going for jogs through neighborhoods and then getting hunted down and shot doesn't really leave me feeling safe because all it takes is for people to rise up enough and feel brazen enough and feel like they're invincible enough to start doing what they already probably want to do, which is get the Jews out of here too and everybody else, because why the fuck not? Nobody's going to do shit about it. So it is our job, everybody listening right now, our job to stop just watching, to stop waiting for somebody else to take action, and most importantly, to stop being silent until action is taken by somebody else. There's this effect in psychology called the bystander effect. It was called the Kitty Genovese effect because of the woman after whom it was named. And the initial research and telling of it was called into question time and time again. But the idea is this. Oftentimes when we see somebody else in need, in pain, in need of assistance, we look at them and assume, well, their need is pretty clear. Somebody else is going to do something about it. But unfortunately, time after time, people keep having that thought and many people don't stop. And for years, I've made it a point of mine to pull over and at least ask the people at the side of the road, do you need help? Oh, well, we call AAA already. Okay. And I can move on. Or, you know, are you okay? Yes, we are. No, we're not. And then I can respond appropriately. And every once in a while, it does end up that I stop and somebody else needs help. But somehow, for some reason that have more to do with my own shame and insecurity about speaking up about this, I felt like this is an issue that I just need to sit on the sidelines of. And part of it is probably because I felt like I didn't want to make the wrong statement and get judged. But I have to wonder. I have to wonder how many people in Poland and how many people in Germany and how many people in Austria and how many people in Belgium and Italy had similar thoughts and thought to themselves, yeah, somebody else, this is too insane. Somebody else is going to stop it. And then nobody did. And then millions of people got slaughtered over a period of less than 5 or 6 years. And we talk about it to this day. And then I realized I can't allow myself to be that person. And hopefully you can't either. I can't sit back and look at this 10, 15 years down the line and say, holy shit, from the moment I thought I should do something to the moment it ended, thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people died. I can't do that. So we're going to keep talking about this, and we're going to keep finding more and more people to talk about it when it comes to this. But I want it to be clear to all of you. If you're listening to me because you've been traumatized, you've been through hurt, you have mental health issues, addiction, you have people in your family who have had those, and those centered around a whole host of different traumas and experiences in early life, then I want you to connect to this for a moment. I want you to start thinking to yourself, what would I behave like if my family, if my people, if my neighborhood was being profiled like this over and over and over and publicly murdered? And if you're already doing what you would be doing in that case, then please reach out to me and join, and let's figure out what we can do to stop this. But if you're not, I want you to start taking this more personally, because you're in it, so it's personal. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful, and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.